have a pile of books to show you. Over the weekend, me and my friends went on a massive op shop run, or thrift stores or charity shops, whatever you call them where you are from. And I was very, very lucky to get incredible op shop luck, which I don't often get when I go op shopping. We went to multiple different stores, mainly looking for books, and we all left with big piles. A few of my friends came up with probably double the amount of books I'm going to show you today. So this is a lot of books, I know that, but just to know, I came away with less books than a lot of the other girls that I went with. Because this was op shopping, most of these books were $1 to $3, which is great for books in Australia. I think I've mentioned in another video before that new books, paperback, can cost anywhere between $25 and $40, and hardcover copies can cost like $40 to $60 AUD, so in USD that's like $80 or something crazy. I have a lot to get through here, so let's just jump straight into the first book. This isn't going to appear very well on camera because this is actually like embossed white text here, but this book is called Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rini Edo Lodge. I've been meaning to pick up this book for a while. I actually had it saved on my eBay cart, but I was lucky enough to stumble upon it at the op shop. This is a British book. The blurb is very, very short. but it says the book that sparked a national conversation exploring everything from eradicating black history to the extrinsible link between class and race. Why I'm no longer talking to white people about race is the essential handbook for anyone who wants to understand race relations in Britain today. I think there will be a lot of similar themes that are applicable to Australia and also the US in this. Such a good find. Okay, I didn't really think this through because I don't know where I'm going to put them once I've done showing you, but oh well. The next book I found, again, I'm going to keep saying I had incredible luck, but that is truly because I did. That is The Marriage Portrait. By Maggie O'Farrell. If you recognize this name, it is because Maggie O'Farrell is the author of Hamnet, which was just made into a movie that won a bunch of awards. One of the friends that I went with on our op shop crawl has read this book and loved it. So again, when I saw it sitting there, I had to pick it up. Again, it's another very short blurb here. In the winter of 1561, Lucrezia, Duchess of Ferrara, is taken on an unexpected visit to a country villa by her husband, Alfonso. As they sit down to dinner, it occurs to her that their journey to this lonely place has a sinister purpose. He intends to kill her. The Marriage Portrait is the story of a singular young woman who must battle for survival amidst the splendor and treachery of the Italian Renaissance. Alrighty. The next book I picked up is a little bit of a random one, and I doubt my international audience will know who this person is, but this is Hope by Tim Costello. This book is all battered and bruised, but that led me to want to pick it up more. So, Tim Costello was in a band, in a quite famous band, and then he pivoted into politics and was quite successful in that too. Moments of inspiration in a essays. In a world that is full of challenging and soul-searching events, Tim Costello shares stories that he has encountered often in everyday life, but also in the most dramatic of circumstances. It is a thought-provoking collection that meditates on the importance of love, faith, and life, a book to savor and reflect on. I'm less interested about the faith aspect, but I am interested about just what he has to say. And I just thought that this was clearly a well-loved book by the old owner. Oh, this next book I'm very interested in. It's called Under the Banner of Heaven. I had never heard of this book before I saw it on the shelf, but it is right up my alley. And when I read the blurb, I was like, yes, you are coming home with me. The blurb says, born into an average, all-American family, brothers Ron and Dan Lafferty insist they were commanded to kill by God. John Carker's account of what followed is a chilling narrative of polygamy, savage violence, and unyielding faith, as well as an exploration of Mormonism that inspired the crimes. Under the Banner of Heaven is a devastatingly powerful work of non-fiction that explores the psychotic hinterland at the edge of the religious mentality. I was drawn to this because it is essentially exploring sort of what people do under the banner of heaven, under the guise of religion. And it's fascinating, especially in the current political climate. You see, people who self-identify as Christian but do not follow anything that the Bible teaches. So I'm very interested to learn about the psychology behind that. If you're new to my channel, you may not know that I love reading about sort of religion from an atheistic perspective and sort of challenging the beliefs and the texts. It's fascinating to me. So I am very excited to read this one. Oh, the next book I had been considering picking up, but I wasn't sure. That is Wifedom. I wasn't sure because so this is Mrs. Orwell's Invisible Life, and I haven't actually read 1984. I don't think that matters because it's about George Orwell's wife, but I just wasn't sure. I have read Animal Farm, but this book is about, as it says, Mrs. Orwell's life. And I was intimidated because it is a chunky one. Looking for wonder and some reprieve from every day, Anne Funder slips into the pages of her hero George Orwell. As she watches him create his writing self, she tries to remember her own, and when she uncovers his forgotten wife, it is a revelation. Eileen O'Shaughnessy. His literary brilliance shaped Orwell's work, and her practical nous saved his life. But why and how was she written out of the story? Using newly discovered letters from Eileen to her best friend, Funder recreates the Orwell's marriage through the Spanish Civil War and World War II in London. She rolls up the screen, concealing Orwell's private life. She led to question what it takes to be a writer and what it is to be a wife. Compelling and utterly original, Wifedom speaks to the unsung work of women everywhere today, while offering a breathtakingly intimate view of one of the most important literary marriages of the 20th century. It is a book that speaks to our present moment as much as it illuminates the past. I think I want to read sort of more of Orwell's works before I get to this one, so it might be a while, but I am interested to hear about, because there are so many male artists and writers and scientists whose wife actually did the work, but they get the credit, so I'm interested to know if this is one of those situations. Okay, the next book I have, I don't think you'll be able to see the title up here, but it is called Growing Up Asian in Australia. There are a few, this is a series that this publisher, Black Ink, does. They've done Growing Up Aboriginal in Australia, Growing Up African in Australia, and I think there's a few others, obviously, Growing Up Asian in Australia. But essentially the premise is that different authors or artists or just people submit their stories about what it's like to grow up as a minority in Australia. And these books are always heartbreaking. Unfortunately, Australia is is a very racist country still, and these books do a really good job at highlighting that. I have growing up Aboriginal in Australia, so I am happy to add this one to my collection and read it because I am so interested in hearing everyone's stories. Asian Australians have often been written about by outsiders as outsiders. In this collection, they tell their own stories with verve, courage, and a large dose of humour. Here are well-known authors and exciting new voices spanning several generations and drawn from all over Australia. They tell tales of leaving home, falling in love, coming out, and finding one's feet. In sharing their stories, they show us what it's really like to grow up Asian and Australian. This next book I can't believe I don't own a copy of and that I've never read before, and that is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. I've never read a Dolly Alderton, but I have Ghosts and Good Material on my shelf. Just praise you. No, I hate it when they do that. I don't think there is a blurb. There is no blurb. So frustrating, but as far as I'm aware, this is like sort of a memoir from Dolly Alderton talking about everything she knows about love and life. I think this is a lot of people's favourite book, and it's very highly regarded. So I thought it was about time that I picked it up and read it. This book is such a fun version. So, if you watch my videos regularly, you'll know that at the start of the year, I finished reading Mother Mary Comes to Me by Arundhati Joy Roy, and I loved that book, but I had never read anything else by her, and she's an International Booker Prize winning author. author, but I just never read anything by her. So when I saw this on the shelf, I had to pick it up. This is the book that won her the International Booker Prize, and that is The God of Small Things. And I have never seen this edition of this book before. Normally it comes in this, it's like a rainforest, super close up, and there's like a leaf and a ladybug. You've never seen this version, so I mean, I had to pick it up. Esther and Rael, 7-year-old twins, are growing up amidst vats of banana jam, mountains of peppercorns, and scenes of political turbulence in Kerala. But when their beautiful young cousin Sophie arrives, their world is irrevocably shaken. An illicit liaison and tragedies, both accidental and intentional, expose things that lurk unsaid in a country drifting dangerously towards unrest. Wow, she's actually written so many books. This is a published list at the time of this, so it doesn't include My Sedacious Heart is not on this list, and her most recent, Mother Mary Comes to Me. It's sweet here, she's put in a dedication to her mum, which if you haven't read her new book, I recommend it, but they were not on good terms. So that's very nice of her. Can't wait to get to that. Oh, this next book, if you watch my channel regularly, in my most recent April reading wrap-up video, you would have seen that I finished a book called Earthquake by Nikki Sava about the most recent Australian election in 2025. Well, a lot of the reviews on Goodreads for that book were saying that that book is not her best. Her best book is called Bulldozed, and at the op shop, what happened to be waiting for me is that very book. So, this is similar to Earthquake, but it is a comprehensive analysis, same vibe, analyzing the election results of the, I think it was 2022 election, where this guy got voted out and this guy won. This guy is Anthony Albanese, our current Prime Minister. this guy is Scott Morrison, who is very unliked. Apparently this one is a lot better because Nikki Sava used to work for the same party that this guy is a part of. So she has the inside scoop. She used to be a political analyst and advisor way back in the 2000s, but she still has a lot of the connections and spills the tea. I'm excited to read this one because Earthquake was quite witty and had a lot of sort of very subtle humour, which I found funny, and to the sort of untrained eye is not an insult, but it actually is. Between 2013 and 2022, Tony Abbott begat Malcolm Turnbull, who begat Scott Morrison. Oh, that's a whole saga. Essentially, 3 prime ministers in a row in the one term all got the other one fired. So we had like a rollover. I'm not doing a very good job at explaining this. It's like almost midnight, apologies. But yeah, essentially there was a lot of infighting and they all hated each other, so they all pushed each other under the bus to get themselves the top position as Prime Minister. We were swapping Prime Ministers in this time period in Australia so frequently that when ambulances picked people up, the AMBOs stopped asking who is the Prime Minister of Australia question because no one knew the answer. Anyway, let me keep reading. For 9 long years, Australia was governed by a succession of coalition governments rocketed by instability and bloodletting and consumed with prosecuting climate and culture wars while neglecting policy. By the end, among his detractors, and there were plenty, Morrison was seen as the worst Prime Minister since Billy McCone, even worse than Tony Abbott, who lasted a scant 2 years in the job, whose main legacy was that he destroyed Julia Gillard, then himself, then Turnbull. This is a lot of Australian political law to explain. But essentially, Tony Abbott is the worst. Julia Gillard was our only female Prime Minister, and she was treated really disgustingly, but she was actually a pretty good Prime Minister. Yeah. Morrison is this guy, by the way. Morrison failed to attempt the mantle of national leadership or to deal adequately with the challenges of natural disasters and the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the big things that brought him down was at the end of 2019 and the start of 2020. We had catastrophic bushfires in Australia, and he was holidaying in Hawaii, and he didn't come back when the bushfires were happening. And he said, and I quote, "I don't hold a hose, mate," when he got questioned as to why he didn't come back and leave the country. So yeah, people were pissed. There's this whole look up on YouTube, Scott Morrison handshake, and you will see compilations of people refusing to shake the Prime Minister's hand because he essentially just left communities to fend for themselves when there were these bushfires. Anyway, this is a lot of law. Nikki Sava, Australia's renowned political commentator, author and columnist, was there for all of it. In her previous book, she revealed the ruinous behaviour of former Prime Minister Abbott and his Chief of Staff, Peter Credlin. I really should read that book. That led to the ascension of Turnbull. In Plots and Prayers, she told the inside story and coup that overthrew Turnbull and instilled his convening successor, Morrison. I should also read that book. Now she lays out the final unravelling of the coalition at the hands of the resurgent Labour and the so-called Deal independents that culminated in the historic 2022 election, with her typical access to key players and her riveting accounts of what went on behind the scenes. Bulldozed is the unique final volume of an unputdownable and impeccably sourced political trilogy. I might read those other two books before I read this one because I want to read them all in order. And again, for people who may be new to this channel, I have a degree in politics, so this stuff is fascinating to me, and it's also like essential knowledge in Australia. So yeah, I am excited to read this, but I'm going to pick up those other two books so I get the full saga experience. I always spend way too much time on the political books, I apologise. The next book I picked up is Exciting Times in this American edition, which is cool. This was also on my want to read list for a while. And so, again, when I saw it sitting there, You're Coming Home with Me. Although I will say, I don't like why Americans, please comment down below and let me know why do you not use A4 paper. Why do you use the American letterhead version? Because A4 paper is amazing because no matter how many times you fold it, the scale remains the same. So when you fold it in half, the scale is the same. It's like exact. I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't end up in incorrect dimensions if you were to scale it back up. It folds down perfectly to the same dimensions, I think. But this is an American version of this book, and it's just wrong. Like, let me find like an Australian size book is like that, and this is half of an A4 piece of paper. Why do you do the American paper size where it's like this? I don't get it. Anyway, and it's like, yeah, it's just weird. Sorry, midnight thoughts. Ava moved to Hong Kong to find happiness, but so far it isn't working out. Since she left Dublin, she's been spending her days teaching English to rich children. She's been assigned the grammar classes because she lacks warmth, and her nights avoiding pendulum roommates in her cramped apartment. When Ava's best friend Julian, a witty British banker, he offers a shortcut into a lavish life her meagre salary could never allow. Ignoring her feminist leanings and her better instincts, Ava finds herself moving into Julian's apartment, letting him buy her clothes and eventually striking up a sexual relationship with him. When Julian's job takes him back to London, she stays put, unsure where their relationship stands. Enter Edith, a Hong Kong-born lawyer, striking and ambitious. Edith takes Ava to the theatre and leaves her tulips in the hallway. Ava wants to be her and wants her. Ava has been carefully pretending that Julian is nothing more than an absentee roommate, so when Julian announces that he's returning to Hong Kong, she faces a fork in the road. Should she return to the easy, compatible life with Julian, or take a leap into the unknown with Edith? Politically alert, heartbreakingly raw, and dryly funny, Exciting Times is thrillingly attuned to the great freedoms and greater uncertainties of modern love in stylish, uncluttered prose. Noisy Dolan, I think that's how you pronounce this author's name, dissects the personal and financial transactions that make up a life and announces herself in a singular new voice. Sounds very interesting. Okay. The next book you got a glimpse at just before when I was doing a size comparison, but I found a Simone de Beauvoir. She came to stay. I am yet to read any Simone de Beauvoir, even though she is one of the most influential feminist writers. I just haven't got around, and I have so many of her novels. As I said, just haven't got around to it. Simone de Beauvoir's passionately eloquent and ironic novel, written as an act of revenge against the woman who nearly disrupted her life, was Jean-Paul Sartre. It has always been unthinkable that Pierre and Francois should ever stop loving each other, and yet talented and restless, they constantly feel the need for new sensations, new people. It is because of this that Javier comes into their life. Young, beautiful, totally irresponsible, and determined to drive a wedge between them. Alright, I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books to show you. Okay, we're gonna have to do a rapid round. This is Sarah Moss's Ripeness. A few of my friends have read this and they absolutely loved it. Sorry, I'm skipping the blurbs because I still have so many books to show you and it's so late and I'm so tired. The next book I picked up is Milk Man. This won the Man Booker Prize in 2018. journalist who was stationed in the Middle East and specifically in Palestine, and it is his story about the war and what he witnessed in the Middle East in the time that he was stationed there. And I love it when stories like these have pictures. That's kind of a weird thing to say, but I think it informs the story so much more. Last year I read Absurdistan, which was also a journalist telling of he was stationed in Russia in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it was fascinating. I highly recommend it. But it was really cool because he also had photos in his book, and it had photos of him sneaking into the Kremlin and meeting the Dalai Lama and all these really crazy and incredible experiences he got to do as a journalist. Both him, that was by Eric Campbell, this is by John Lyons, and they're both Australian journalists, which is cool. Super, really interested in this one. The next book I picked up is The House on Mango Street. This is a very short one, and apparently it's sort of told in little snippets and vignettes of the house on Mango Street, which is really cool. One of the girls that I was with, my friend, she's read it and reckons I'd love it. Okay, almost there. The next one is such a cute little small baby. Again, if you watch my videos regularly, you'll know I love reading there's a few different Australian journals that come out with like quarterly essays. I am subscribed to like 4 or 5 of them, I think, but I'm not subscribed to this one, and this one was really interesting to me. This is Our National Shame. Violence against women. Again, if you don't know, Australia has a really significant violence against women problem, specifically male violence against women. We only have 26 million people that live here, so our population compared to the rest of the world is quite small. But 1 woman a week is killed by male violence, and like 1 in 4 women have been abused or raped or sexually assaulted since they were 15. So it's really disgusting stats for a developed country. It's disgusting stats for any country. But yeah. So this is just a little essay on in this journal called The National Interest, and they just write about things like this. It's always really interesting. But there are little to no there's nothing that the government is really doing to combat it, and they certainly aren't. The current political climate is not helping either. So I don't know when this was written, actually. I should probably look, because my guess is that it's gotten worse since this was published. This was published in 2021, yeah. The problem has gotten worse, so the stats I read to you are probably wrong, and it's a higher number. 2 more. This is a book that I had never heard of before, but I saw it on the shelf. I was interested. It's called God Forgets. About the war. From my understanding, this is a fiction novel about immigrants who had to flee their country because of violence and war. They settle in I think it's America, or maybe, no, they settle in Australia, and they feel like, or they can't understand why God would forget about them, essentially. And it's sort of grappling with how can sort of this all-knowing, all-caring being treat so many people this way. And so I'm really interested, even though it's like a fictional story. Last one. This was on my to-read list already. It's literally came out like a month ago. It's called Iluka by Cassie Stroud. Yeah, it came out a couple of months ago, and it was brand new sitting there in the op shop, so that's an excellent find. This is by an Australian author, I believe. And I was planning on buying this would have been like $35, so, and I got it for $2. So I am very happy with that. Okay, that is all of the books that I found at various different op shops over the weekend. It is a very good haul, and I can't believe my luck, but I also assume that I will not be finding any good books at an op shop for the next year. I just used up all my good luck. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you learned something. I hope you discovered a book that you're interested in reading. If you've read any of these books, please leave me a comment down below. I'm so interested in what you thought about them. And Americans, let me know why you don't use A4 paper, please. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys